Welcome to Real Life with Jenny. My name's Jenny Senaparatna. Grab your favorite drink, get your favorite snack, and we will get started. Today I have those Ritz crackers with cheese in the middle. Oh, yum. And I have Caribou's Earl Grey tea, which I don't get very often, but it is one of my favorites. So let's get real. Yesterday was a big rewrite day for me, and I want to talk a little bit about it because that's my word for the year. It is something that I'm working through. In fact, last week it was probably Wednesday or Thursday, and I thought, you know what? I haven't thought about my word in a week or two. It just hasn't popped up. It hasn't been something I've been thinking about. And all of a sudden, I don't know, around 8 p.m. last night, rewrite came back into my life. And I was like, okay, I see what you're doing here. So let me tell you a little story. Back when my husband and I first got married 27 years ago now, my husband had this great idea of getting me to love football. He knew that I was super competitive because he had played board games with me. And so he was like, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to pick teams. You're going to pick half the football teams, and I'll pick the other half. So we took all of the football teams and we chose which ones were ours, quote unquote. And then whoever won the most amount of games throughout the entire season won. And so I went through having no clue about anything other than the Minnesota Vikings. And I did not choose them. I'm just going to, because he chose them. I think it's his number 2 team. But I went through and chose teams. And I chose them according to color, really. I went through and just I had no idea where they were or who they were. I didn't have a clue. And we ended up watching football together on Sundays because he would have a team playing my team, and it just became a thing. Fast forward a couple years into our marriage, and I am now very passionate about football. I have teams that I like and teams that I don't like. I can tell you my teams in rank even to this day of who I like the best. Colts, who I like second, the 49ers, who I like third, the Chiefs. No, actually, the Eagles, then the Chiefs. Anyway, I could go all the way down the list, and I could tell you who I dislike the most. It would be the New England Patriots, the Dolphins, the Cowboys. I could go all the way down that list, too. Anyway, so those were my husband's teams. And it really came down to, I don't like the New England Patriots because they would beat the Colts every time they played, and it drove me crazy. It would be a super close game, or once it was a huge blowout, and I was so upset. I was just so passionate about my teams that I actually ended up years later entering fantasy football. Now, if you've never played fantasy football, that's okay. We did a free version, and a bunch of our friends got together and we drafted people. In fact, I drafted Peyton Manning the year, I think it was his second year out. It was just I'm going to try him because he's a Colt, and I'd watched him when he played for Tennessee. And so I'm a huge Peyton Manning fan, have been for years, since year 2. But I just was super passionate about football. We had a football room that had football wallpaper, and I had football cards and different of my favorite players and some of Kevin's favorite players that I kind of put where I didn't have to see them because I really didn't like them. It was a big competition. And so year after year, my husband and I had the competition of who won the most games throughout the season. And we ended up having to stop it when it got to postseason games because it was always my teams in the games, right? No, I'm just totally kidding. But I did win quite a few years. And I really grew to love certain teams and know the coaches, and I knew the plays, and I knew the defense. I knew the kickers, guys. I knew the kickers. I was very, very passionate about it. And then something happened. I actually kind of my husband was traveling on the road more on Sundays, and so I was watching football by myself, and I got really like I'm a little more passionate than we watched the Super Bowl last night with my daughter, and she's like, "I've never seen this side of you." And so I kind of pulled away from football a little bit. And part of that was I started seeing parts of me that I really didn't like. I did not like how I wanted certain people's legs to be broken because they were on the other person's fantasy football team. Just kind of, I got a little too deep and a little too dark. You're like, wow, Jenny. I know. It became such a huge passion for me, this fantasy football and football just in general, that like I watched the drafts. I would spend 2 days watching the draft of football. Like, this was not just I could tell you as many facts as you needed to know at that time. And I joined a fantasy football league at my work where you actually had to pay. It was the first time I'd ever done anything that you had to pay to get in. And I didn't do very well that year. You know, in some years you do really well, other years you don't. And it became almost I can't even explain it. It was so frustrating. The guys that I was with, I'd always played with a bunch of guys. I was normally like maybe 1 or 2 girls in the fantasy football league, so I was used to playing with men. Like, I was used to them knowing more than I did. At least they thought they did. And I played with a bunch of men from my job, and they started making fun of me and really belittling me. It was almost a constant, like, you're a woman, you're an idiot. Now, I realize that not a lot of men are like that. They just were. And it was only a few of them. It wasn't the entire group because there were a lot of women, but my team was losing. And so I actually stopped watching football. I just was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, it was super painful. And sounds really silly because I gave up something that I really liked. And since we're traveling every Sunday, it's really hard to watch a football game. Like, it really is when you're on the road to care. Because you're in the car all day Sunday, and no matter where you're going, you're always in the car all day Sunday. And you don't get out of the service until the games have already started. So you can't really be like, you know what, I'm not going to spend time with the pastor this week. We're going to go watch the football game. In fact, we did that on our wedding. I don't know if you knew that, but it was the playoff game. And I believe it was the Cowboys versus the Vikings. And we were married the day that their playoff game was happening. And we left the reception and went to the hotel so we could watch the game. We didn't stay at the reception for super long. I mean, I think it was long enough, but we skedaddled as quick as we could because I think it was a 3 or 4 p.m. game, and we got there in time to watch the football game. Guys, like, Jenny needs to chill, right? So anyway, let's fast forward probably 5 or 6 years at this point, because my daughter's never actually seen me watch a football game. She knows how passionate I can get about certain teams because she will bring up the Patriots, and I will just get very agitated because they drive me crazy. And so she knows I have some passion about it. But we're watching the game last night, and there was a certain player that every single time someone had him and they played me with fantasy football, he would crush it. He'd get like 6 touchdowns in a game, a minimum of 3 touchdowns in a game, and I lost every single time this guy was one of their players, and it was Ed McCaffrey. Now, so I don't like Ed McCaffrey. I am very frustrated with him because he always beat me, and I never drafted him because the first year he just completely demolished me, and I didn't care how good he wasn't going to be on my team. Like, I was passionate, right? And last night I'm watching the Super Bowl and there it is, Ed McCaffrey's son, and I just felt a complete and utter healing that happened. Now, you're going to think I'm a crazy person, but he was playing for the 49ers, and they're my second favorite team. And so I was like, I'm just going to cheer for him. I am just going to let go of the baggage that I have, and it's silly baggage, and I am going to cheer for him. And it was so fun. I had such a fun time. My team did not win, if you watched the Super Bowl. And that's okay. I still really enjoyed it. I loved being able to cheer for someone that I needed to put in the past. And so it was really a bizarre for you. You're like, Jenny, I've never like cared about football and never cared about those kind of things. But there are things that you're passionate about. And it was one of those moments that we turned off the game and my family started getting ready for bed, and it was just me sitting there. And I just rewrote my history. I just let go of something that I didn't need to hold on to. I didn't even know I was holding on to McCaffrey. Like, you can bring him up, and I get a little irritated. You you bring up John Elway, and like I can't even go there right now. But I really let go of something last night. And it wasn't necessarily I'm a better person because I can cheer for Ed McCaffrey's son. And he did a great job. I was actually super impressed. It was, I can grow and learn in any situation. That was really what I learned. I learned that no matter what's going on in my life, that I always have a chance to grow and learn. And I grew and learned last night. And I realized that I still had issues when it comes to football that I didn't realize I still had. And I just needed to let those go. I needed to let some of that pain and humiliation that happened when I was in that last fantasy football and just let it go. And I just enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the commercials. I just enjoyed the whole process. And I haven't done that in so many years because there's been like a weird, I just didn't think it was possible. And I just said, God, I want to rewrite this. I want to rewrite how I feel about football. Now, am I going to get as passionate about it again? Probably not. I'll watch a game here and there, but I realize that I am an all-in person. Like, I don't do anything by halves. If I'm going to watch football, like, I'm going to cheer. The poor dog was like, what is happening? Mom is yelling at the TV. Is she yelling at me? Like, he was very nervous. I felt so bad because I guess I don't yell often enough for him to be used to it. But I enjoyed myself and I wasn't angry and I felt like there was peace. And I haven't had peace in football in a very long time because it became a sore spot. It became someplace that I'd been kind of hurt and I was embarrassed. And I had before known all the facts and all the figures and worked really hard. And then some people said I didn't know anything. And I kind of stepped away from it. And I gave up a passion that I really enjoyed. And so I'm just coming on. You may not be a football fan. This may not even speak to you. But there are things in our lives that we give up. There are things in our life that we say, someone said we weren't good at and someone kind of gave up on and you walked away from it. And it was something that you really cared about. And I just want to encourage you to relook at it. To go back and relook at that moment and say, were they truthful? And why did I give it up for them? Why did I give it up for that comment? Or, I was, as a kid, told that I was not very smart. That was something that my teachers said and other kids said. And if you knew me in high school, you'd probably would agree with those comments. And I took that and I wore it as a badge. And I was like, I'm not smart. So I'm not really going to be, able to help you with this. And God's really healed that and rewrote that in my life. I'm very intelligent in some areas, but get me to math and just forget it. Like, we're not even I don't do math. It's not something I enjoy. It's not a passion of mine. So I just want to encourage you to go back to it. Something that you maybe gave up. And the second thing that I want you to think about is, what have you kind of held on to that you need to let go of? I did not realize until last night that I still had like this weird passion against people that I don't even know. And and not like I was like sending them hate mail or like have any hate in my heart for them. That was not it at all. But I was able to just let go and enjoy because I let go of some of that weird thing that you kind of take with you. I hope that makes sense. But we just carry things with us that we don't need to carry. And the Lord just kind of rewrote in my heart peace and joy in football. He just really made it a time for me of just going back to the roots of picking teams according to the color. That's what he did. He went back and he brought it back to picking teams that were by the color or by the fun animal that they represented. Because I remember when the Panthers, because it was before the Panthers were there, I was like, I want the Panthers because I love the color and the Panther. Like, that is super fun. And I'm still passionate about them. But God brought me back to that. So what do you need to let go of that you've kind of added baggage to? You've added things to it that really was pure joy before, and you've just added a bunch of junk to it. And bring it before the Lord and ask him to rewrite it. Ask him to say, you know what? I don't know why I've made it this way. I don't know what's happened to get it here, but I want the joy back that it was originally, and I've made it something new and something kind of not so fun. Well, that is all I have for you this week. I hope that you really see some value in this. I feel like there are so many things in our lives that drag us down that we just don't even realize drag us down. And that's why I'm so excited for this year of rewriting. I'm really like, Lord, thank you for rewriting even those super small moments, that he can bring pure joy back into my life, and he can really heal things in my life that I didn't realize were even there. Well, you can find me at Real Life with Jenny on Instagram, Facebook, and Be Real. You can also find me at christconnection.cc/Jen. Super excited about what God can do in your life, even through a football game. You all have a great week.